My name is Gary Gurr. I work with Ventev wireless infrastructure, and the next topic is Wi-Fi deployments in industrial venues. So similar to indoor carpeted environment, you started with putting Wi-Fi into conference rooms, and then Wi-Fi became ubiquitous everywhere as mission-critical applications went over Wi-Fi. Same thing with industrial Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi hasn't been designed for warehouses. So when people deploy similar access points in industrial venues to classrooms or the conference rooms like this, there are challenges. There's challenges in coverage. There are challenges with security. There's challenges with protecting your Wi-Fi equipment, and how do you mount it? So we have developed a line of solutions that support Wi-Fi deployment in industrial venues. So by industrial, we mean warehouses, we mean retail stores, venues that have I-beams, indoor or outdoor, manufacturing plants. So that's our definition of industrial environments. I'm sure there are many others. This is just a few. So looking at quote-unquote classic warehouse, we split it into several sections. And then we'll talk about solutions for each section. Loading docks, both outside and inside, open areas, aisles, freezer room applications, traditional office space, indoor carpeted, and then yards. So in each one of them, nowadays there's a requirement to have Wi-Fi services. Some are more obvious than others, like office spaces. In some, you look at it, you see 50-foot ceilings, and you say, well, what am I going to do there? So we developed a line of solutions. Some are mechanical in nature, some are RF to support the Wi-Fi deployment in industrial space. All right, wide open spaces. So what does that mean? High ceilings, I-beams, and pretty much nothing else. How do you protect your valuable access points from tampering, from fast-moving equipment, from dirt, you name it? Few solutions. So I'm going to go through 2 or 3 solutions per venue, just to give you an example of what we thought. So if you want to mount your access point on a wall, somewhere high on the wall, we came up with a pretty economical wall mount. We call it compact wall mount. It's pretty simple. You snap it in. The wall mount goes on the wall. It can go into electrical junction box area, or you can just drill holes and mount it there. And it gives you protection and improved coverage versus just mounting an access point on the wall. Next product is pretty interesting. We call them industrial or I-beam mounts. Pretty much, so it's on the lower right corner. There's 2 versions. One is called I-beam industrial mount. One is called I-beam low profile mount. They're very similar, but somewhat different sizes. So let's talk about industrial mount. So it's a mount where you can put a lot of neat stuff in it. You can put enclosure on it, you can mount enclosure on it, and within that enclosure you can mount an access point. You can mount an access point right on it. You can mount an antenna on it, and be it a directional antenna or omnidirectional antenna. If it's a directional antenna, there's an option for articulation. The beauty behind it, you can do everything on the ground level. So you can mount everything on the ground level. Then as you go up, you imagine 25, 50 feet up, the only mountains left is standard I-beam clamps. You mount them to I-beams, and you plug in RJ45, and you got your Wi-Fi. So not only is it faster deployment, there's also a security aspect to it. Security both for the access point, but also security for the guy who's deploying it. Clearly, you don't want to be all the way up there and screwing screws and all the bolts and all the nuts and spending a couple hours up there. It's much simpler to do it on the ground level, then go up 4 I-beam clamps, and you're done. And you got your Wi-Fi. There's 2 versions. One is the I-beam industrial mount. So this is the one you can use indoor and outdoor, and you use it with an enclosure where you can pretty much NEMA 3 or NEMA 4 X enclosure where you can hide your access point for additional security. Or we can call it a low profile mount. It's slightly smaller form factor, same function, but you mount the AP straight on a mount without an enclosure. So less about technology, more about application, use model, and helping people who deploy Wi-Fi and simplifying their life. All right, actually, I just already talked about the products. All right, so imagine aisles with tons of boxes. So this is not good for RF. So if you put an omnidirectional antenna right on top of that, you may get some coverage or you may not. So what are the solutions that we have that can support the Wi-Fi deployment within the aisle structure? So pretty much, and Dennis already talked about these products. It's all about directional antennas. You put directional antennas on either side of the wall, and you make sure that you have the right mount for that, because you want articulation, and then you just beam down. Obviously, you have to do a site survey to make sure whether you're covering a single aisle, 2 aisles, 3 aisles, and how much overlap you have. But again, it simplifies the deployment and makes sure that you have Wi-Fi within the aisle environment. So patch antennas or directional antennas, we have multiple variations. Dennis has talked about a few unique ones. We have a standard line, pick a gain, pick a beam width, we have it. It depends on the application. Mounts is something special, so we designed industrial mounts, so more heavy-duty stuff, applicable for industrial applications, much sturdier than in an office environment. All right. Freezer rooms. So interesting application, came from a use case, came from a customer. So if you have Wi-Fi outside the freezer room, that's probably not going inside the freezer room. So how do you enable Wi-Fi inside the freezer room where you have cold temperature, condensation, that kind of stuff? You can put an outdoor Wi-Fi enclosure, a Wi-Fi access point inside of it, or we provide a different option. Our option, we call it a freezer box. Basically, we have an integrated solution that takes indoor access point. It puts us inside the enclosure. We add additional elements. We add a heater to make sure that the temperature is constant. We had a NEMA 4X enclosure to make sure that there's a power washdown, that the AP doesn't get damaged. We can add omnidirectional antenna already integrated underneath the box, or if you want directional, you can work with directional. And both the access point and the heater are powered of a single PoE line. So pretty much all you need to do is make sure you have a PoE drop going in there. And then this solution, plug the AP inside of it, and you have your Wi-Fi in the freezer room.
So question on that. Do you have to have, if I'm powering a 15.4 watt AP, do I have to have 802.3 AT power in order to?
There's a different solution for AT versus AF. All right, loading docks. So you have trucks coming in, they're going from LTE to Wi-Fi network, right? So how do you make sure that they pick up your Wi-Fi network? So that's outside, I'm sorry. Inside is, that's a pretty busy area, right? You got forklifts coming in, you got people going around, so security protection is critical. So we got a few solutions here. Obviously, the standard solutions are, polycarbonate enclosures, and they offer the protection for your access points. It's as simple as that. Whether it's, I'll pick it up. Whether it's, from the weather elements or whether it's from people themselves. We already talked about compact wall mounts. This is a neat solution we developed a year ago. So let's say you have forklifts, and you got your antennas. With traditional environment, if a forklift touches antenna, that antenna flies off. So we developed what we call an I-beam spring mount, where we mount, we have an I-beam mount right here. We put our traditional omnidirectional antenna, and let's say if a forklift comes in, right, it just moves. So instead of just knocking it off, it pushes it up to 45-degree angle, and then antenna gets back on, and it goes to original its location. Clearly, it doesn't work 100%. So if somebody really ramps it in, nothing helps. But we found in many instances, If it touches it, all it does is just bounces off. Wi-Fi suffers momentarily, and then you get back to your Wi-Fi. So this is really to make sure that the mission-critical applications stay, Wi-Fi stays on, and then your valuable, equipment doesn't get damaged. All right, outdoor. So how do you make sure that the communication between incoming vehicles and your Wi-Fi network inside your warehouse works? Standard set of solutions we've already talked about. As Ventev, and I mentioned it in the beginning, we offer the broadest selection of antennas, enclosures, and mounts in the market to cover multiple applications. We have mobile antennas to mount them on vehicles, be it purely Wi-Fi, be it Wi-Fi, LTE, 3G, GPS, to make sure the moment the trucks come in within the Wi-Fi network, they transition into your corporate network. Directional antennas, PoE enclosures, what we call a solution very similar to what I discussed, the freezer box, but it's designed to be in an outdoor environment. So pretty much, if you want to extend your Wi-Fi from indoor to outdoor, and it's right next, somewhere close by where you can do a PoE drop, and you want to save some money, instead of purchasing an outdoor Wi-Fi access point, you can take the indoor Wi-Fi access point and put it into a NEMA 3X enclosure, where we offer, again, a heater. We also offer a fan, a surge protector, lightning arresters, and antenna. So the entire solution in one to extend your Wi-Fi from indoor to outdoor. Finally, outdoor yards. So some yards are small, some yards are just gigantic. And if you truly want to have Wi-Fi everywhere, where your people go to make sure your RFID works, you can find everything you need, then Wi-Fi is required as well. And I think I'm being redundant here as I mentioned the solutions again, but sort of from an application perspective, our PoE enclosures support PoE-powered indoor access points somewhere within 100 meters of your PoE switch. Directional antennas with industrial mounts, as well as UPS systems which you described before.